Just waiting for my good friend Donna Lynn Hilton to join us. This is the second episode in our Broadway interview series. Hi, Donna Lynn. Welcome. You did it. We both did it. It's a miracle of modern technology.
It is. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. Thank you for being here. Before we get started with some questions, I'm going to introduce you to everyone and to tell them a little bit about the Goodspeed Opera House. Forgive me, I want to get this correct, so I'm going to read some of it. My friend Donna Lynn Hilton is a producer at the Goodspeed Opera House in East Haddam, Connecticut, now in her 32nd season. She has led the creation of many popular productions at the theater, including Irving Berlin's Holiday Inn, the critically acclaimed 2012 production of Showboat. She has also led the development of many new musicals at Goodspeed's Norma Terrace Theater. She is currently guiding Goodspeed's effort in the development of the new musical Anne of Green Gables. She has led the creation of the Johnny Mercer Writers Colony at Goodspeed, which welcomes nearly 50 writers working on upwards of 20 new musicals to Goodspeed each winter, and has become one of the premier developmental opportunities available to emerging musical theater writers. Thank you for being here, Donna Lynn.
That's all the time we have tonight.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I wanted to start asking, first of all, the premise of the show is, how have people in the Broadway and national theater community dealt with the pandemic and the shutdown of our industry? So the first thing I want to ask you is, personally, what have you been doing since mid-March? How have you been doing?
I have been well, first of all.
Good.
I and my loved ones have been well, thankfully. And I have truly never worked harder in my life. And you know me, and you know that's generally pretty hard work that I do.
Absolutely.
But I've just never worked harder, worked longer hours, stressed more than I have since we realized on, I think, March 15th that the world was falling down around us.
Right. Which leads me to my next question. Before I ask that, I'm going to inform the audience for people that might not know. The Goodspeed Opera House is a regional theater. And the way that might be different than a Broadway theater or a Broadway show is that the Goodspeed is a professional theater company that produces its own season most of the time outside of New York City. And in this case, that's absolutely true, in Connecticut. What was going on with the Goodspeed in terms of their season when you had to shut down?
We were at the very beginning of our season. We unlike most regional theaters, have a season that runs more or less with the calendar year. So we were scheduled to begin rehearsals for the first show of our season on March 18th. And,
wow.
And that have been the beginning of a 3-show season on our main stage.
Right.
3 musicals that would run until right after Thanksgiving. And our season would also include a series of 3 new musicals in development that would have been produced, workshopped in development at our second stage in Chester, Connecticut, the Terrace Theater. And we were literally 3 days before the company arrived to start rehearsal when we pulled the plug.
And what information was coming to you that led you to make that decision?
Well, we thought, remember back then, we thought maybe we would be able to lock down for a few weeks and this thing would go. You know, we naively thought, oh, if we all go home and stay there for a few weeks, maybe we'll be okay. And so we thought, and so much has happened since then, it's honestly difficult to remember the order of events. But on that day, when that decision was made, we thought maybe a month delay. And maybe in a month we'll be able to bring the company up here, and the acting company here, most of them were based in New York City, bring them here and get to rehearsal in a normal fashion. Very quickly, it became clear, within days, it was clear that that was not a reality. And so then we started the triage that so many businesses have been dealing with, the rolling what if, how do we, if this happens, that happens, you know, just the constantly rolling evolution of what our reality was going to be.
Right.
And I guess by mid-April, it was pretty clear that we were not going to be able to hold on to the season.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't announce it because we held out hope, but it was becoming very clear that it was just not going to be realistic.
Right. And for people that don't know, the Goodspeed, if I'm not mistaken, has been in operation since the early 60s, correct?
Yeah, 1963. This was our 57. This was to have been our 57th season. And people say to me, "Are you counting this year?" And I'm like, pardon my language, hell yeah, I'm counting this year. This is the hardest
Absolutely.
year ever counting it. Yeah, so since 1963.
And it's been responsible for those that don't know, it's been responsible for incredibly famous pieces of musical theater like Annie, Man of La Mancha, Holiday Inn, as we mentioned before, that have they've been birthed at the Goodspeed and then gone on to find incredible success on Broadway,
Yes.
nationally, internationally. But that's what happens at a place like Goodspeed.
Yes.
Incredible works of art get birthed and then go out into the public. That takes a lot of people, not only the actors on stage, but the people backstage, front of house, in the costume shop, and in the scene shop, marketing, producing. You have a lot of people that the organization employs.
Yeah.
How has that been affected as you've had in this sort of rolling decision making? Yeah. How has it affected you?
We sent everybody home initially. We speak for safety reasons, for everyone's health. We said on March 15th, go home. We don't know how long this is going to be or exactly what this means, but you have salary for 3 weeks, go home, and we're going to sort it out. And then at the end of that 3 weeks, we began a rollout of furloughs, partial furloughs, layoffs of 57 employees have been separated from Goodspeed in some way. Some of them completely laid off. Those jobs will not come back. When we are allowed to go back to work, we will have to figure.
Right.
And there are 24 people now working on partial furlough. So we have no staff currently working full time. And there were almost 200 artist contracts. Actors like yourself, directors, choreographers, designers, technicians, craftspeople, and artisans who were planning to come here for some type of work throughout our season, and those contracts were terminated.
Right. So because it's not only the people that whose livelihood has been drastically affected that work there year round. You would job in directors, choreographers, designers, music directors, actors, and oftentimes, like I know from my experience, I've worked at Goodspeed several times. That is a wonderfully long contract, which is a rarity in an actor's career. We're talking 3.5 to 4 months sometimes, and to have that pulled away. Not to mention, I mean, and that in no way shortchanges the people that work there year round and season long. It's a shocking thing, especially 3 days prior to the start of your first.
It's devastating for those people. And it's devastating for us to have to do that. We have done as much as we could, but even, we're facing a loss of close to $7 million doing nothing, just keeping the core staff, answering the phones and working enough so that when we do get the go ahead, we can get back to work. So it's been devastating. And I know the stories that we're hearing at this point as the CARES Act funding is running out, as people's unemployment is that people are struggling to secure their unemployment still. Yeah. I'm hearing real horror stories from people in our industry who literally can't make ends meet and are losing their homes and are falling back into situations of mental illness or substance abuse when they have nowhere else to turn. It's truly heartbreaking.
It absolutely is. And that doesn't even take into account the fact that you have a huge subscription base that looks forward to the kind of content and artistry that you produce season in and out, and they're not able to gather and experience that.
No.
And I'm sure that there's something that is devastating in its own right for them emotionally to not have that experience.
It is. I mean, we try to remind ourselves that as long as we're healthy, this is
Yes.
a strong institution. There is no doubt that we will survive this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
There's equally no doubt that we will not look the same when we get the go-ahead to go back to work, hopefully sometime next year.
Right.
That there are people who will have made the decision to move on to other careers. There will be jobs that are not going to exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that there will be audience who are not ready to return to us, who don't feel safe returning to us.
Right.
So much of what we've been doing has been trying to remain engaged with that audience. I don't know if that's where you were headed.
Yes, it actually is. Because there's certainly, I mean, empirically, there's a revenue stream that has been lost because there are no tickets to be sold. There are no events taking place. That being said, you have been very, very, very busy. What kind of content have you been creating with your staff to keep your audience engaged?
I'm really proud of the team here, who we were able to pivot really quickly. And
Good.
in April, when we realized that we were not going to be inviting the audience back into the theater until at least fall, most likely, we created 3 pieces of online engagement really quickly. The first, and the one that's probably most accessible to people who might be listening to our conversation right now, is a podcast called In the Spotlight that has been produced by our artistic associates Annika Chapin and Michael Flang. And they've actually filled a gap in the podcast world, if you can believe that. They take a deep dive. We release an episode every 2 weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
they take a deep dive into the study of a classic piece of musical theater. They are both incredibly knowledgeable about musical theater, the history of musical theater, the content of musical theater. And Annika is a brilliant dramaturg and can analyze and dissect a lyric just in a fashion that you want to eat. She's just amazing in that way. And so they have really gone to work and turned this podcast into something that is really hitting. The analytics on it are great. And we're actually trying to figure out how we hold on to it. Next year when things get back to normal, I'm knocking wood, when things get back to normal, we really want to be able to hold on to it because it's proven to be a real feather in our caps. And then the 2 other pieces that we've created are a series called Great Speed, a little play on good speed there, that takes a look back at some of our biggest hits. And that has been really useful to engage our core audience, who in many cases are slightly older people who really have been homebound during all of this, who really are not going out into the world. And they've really been tuning in to, we talk about a show that has been a big hit at good speed and look back at clips, B-roll clips of the show, and we just a half hour, but to revisit the incredible work that we create on our stages. And that has been not only a wonderful way to re-engage with our audience, but I think it's been important to our staff because you touched on it earlier, this has been emotionally devastating. And for us, when in the darkest moments, when you think, are we ever going to get back to normal? And then you look at that incredible footage of the work that we do, and you go, yes, this is too important. We're too good at it. This is too important. We are going to get through this, and we're going to come back stronger than ever. And then the third piece is a piece called In the Home Office. As you alluded to, Goodspeed has developed an awful lot of new work that has been added to the canon. And so that program focuses on writers, emerging writers, established writers with new work. We share with our audience new work in development.
That's fantastic. It is key to keeping the audience engaged in some way, because we can't gather, to feel that they still have some kind of connection to the theater that they've known for so long. Which leads me to another question, and this is sort of like more of a macro idea. I have spent most of my career working in the regional theater, as have you.
Yes.
In your opinion, how is professional regional theater essential to the growth of the American theater as a whole, particularly when we talk about recovering from the shutdown and the pandemic?
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, first of all, from a macro view, the American economy is not going to recover until the arts are included in the recovery. I cannot
completely agree.
The arts contribute almost $1 trillion. I think it's 900 billion, which to me is $1 trillion to the gross domestic product of the United States. So until the arts are acknowledged and included in the recovery, our economy is not going to recover. Period. End of sentence.
Yes.
In terms of what we contribute, we just, it hit the media this week that the flagship producing theaters here in Connecticut, we are blessed with, I believe six producing theaters here in the state of Connecticut. 5 of them hold Tony Awards for outstanding contributions, and 2 of them hold 2 Tony Awards, which I think maybe could be for outstanding contribution, for outstanding regional theater. And so we are a very strong coalition, and we have approached the state of Connecticut requesting funding to sustain our organizations during this time. No word yet. Of course, nothing moves quickly, but we just have to drive home the fact that we are critical to the region's economy, and that is true of regional theaters all over the country. There are incredible theaters in San Diego that are critical to the economy of that city, that feed the restaurants downtown, that bring people into areas that they might not otherwise be in. The same is true of Seattle, of Palo Alto, of Chicago. You can name any city. The arts are a critical piece of the infrastructure of that city, and we need to be acknowledged and we need to be included in the recovery. And we are currently here in Connecticut mandated not to return to work, completely appropriately. We are very proud of our numbers here in Connecticut, but we're still at 25 people at an indoor event. We can't do anything. We can't afford to do anything.
Right.
So
you're still in phase 2.
It just needs to be acknowledged that, we're here, we're waiting, we're ready to go to work. Nobody wants to be safer than we want to be. And we'll stay out of the way while the more critical pieces of the economy get back to work. Here in Connecticut, I think it's 18-19% of the economy is still not back to work yet, but we're a big piece of that, and we're just making sure that the government realizes that.
Absolutely, and in terms of facts and figures and numbers, not only does it contribute upwards of 900 billion, but it employs 5.1 million people all over the country are employed in the performing arts industry, and these people, not only do they not want to, they don't have another choice to make, another career opportunity to pursue, because this is what they live and breathe. That's what people need to understand. No matter what side of the stage you're on, people involved in the performing arts industry, they live and breathe it, and it is essential to the growth of our society, to the nurturing and progress of our society. And
they've spent years training to do what they do. Years and years training to do what they do, and it's not an easy life. And someone who commits to it is a vocation for those of us who do this work.
Yes.
And it is. I know that people in the theater are some of the smartest, hardest working people on the face of the earth, and so many of them are pivoting right now, figuring out how to do something they're not used to doing. You're a perfect example of that in this moment. But learning how to, rebuild yourself at 35, 40, 55, 60 years old is difficult.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, with federal and state aid, we can recover. It's just
absolutely
opening people's eyes to the fact that we are essential. We're essential to the fabric of society.
Yes.
Which leads me to possibly my last question. I'm such a fan of the Goodspeed Opera House. I love it with all my heart, and I'm such a proponent of regional theater as a whole. How can people help right now? How can people help the Goodspeed?
The biggest thing that people can do right now for the theater in your region, the theater that you love, or the theater that you're just aware of, is that we're all in the process of putting our membership renewals out there, our subscription renewals out there. If people have the capacity to invest in a regional theater right now, to go online, go to goodspeed.org, go to the La Jolla Playhouse, go to Seattle Rep, pick the theater that you love in your region, and buy in to what they're planning for 2021. Many theaters are saying, we don't know what 2021 is going to look like, so we're offering you a variety of options. You may be able to stream content from home. We may do a show that you can choose to come to live, or we'll capture it and stream it into your home for you. But please invest in us now so that we can stay strong and we can come back. That's the best thing that anybody listening right now can do for the theater that they love in their region. Subscribe.
And specifically, great. And yes, here, absolutely. And specifically, if I'm not mistaken, Goodspeed has a donation protocol called the Footlights Fund, where people can donate.
We do. So the Footlights Fund is a spring campaign that we do annually. We have a very robust membership campaign that is a fall campaign for us. And a few years ago, we started a spring campaign. And just as COVID hit, we thought, okay, well, this is a perfect opportunity. So the Footlights campaign has been a priority this spring and summer. People have been very generous. We focused a lot of energy on recapturing ticket refunds. So asking people to donate their ticket refunds when a show was canceled rather than taking a refund or taking a credit. If your theater has asked you to do that and you have not responded yet, please consider taking a ticket refund. Turning your ticket refund into a donation, because it makes a huge difference in your theater's life. And we have our membership and our subscription audience has been very generous in this moment, and we have been able to hold on to 35% of our ticket revenue, I believe. We've been able to hold on to and turn the donations to the fund.
That's incredible. And speaking of generosity, you've been so generous in speaking about your fellow regional theaters, what they're going through. Is there, I want to ask one final question. Is there I know that you're on committees through the LORT committee and what have you, but is there sort of a consortium of theaters like the Goodspeed where the leadership is talking about what we do and how we come back from this? Or does that not exist because it varies from state to state and what those guidelines are?
It absolutely exists. And, it exists in many different ways and in several formats. There is an organization called the National Alliance for Musical Theater, NAMT.org, if anybody wants to check it out. And that organization, it's a member service organization. So theaters all across the country who produce musical theater pay dues into this organization that then helps us problem solve. The biggest piece of NAMP's portfolio is a Festival of New Musicals that is produced in New York City every fall. And of course, that will not be happening live this year. That will be happening virtually. And so weekly, the NAMT leadership gathers membership online, and we talk and share ideas and share safety plans. NAMT has been working with Actors Equity to keep the lines of communication open as theaters start to develop plans to going back to work. LORT, the League of Resident Theaters, which is a group that Goodspeed is part of, a collective bargaining unit that Goodspeed is part of, meets regularly. Both of those organizations have been incredibly instrumental in empowering the conversation about racial equity that is happening in the theater right now.
Excellent.
The Theater Communications Group, Americans for the Arts. There's a lot of activity that is taking place virtually that's keeping all of us connected, learning from one another, sharing ideas. There's a lot of new collaboration happening. It is in this moment when finances are so critical as we look to coming back in 21. There are a lot of opportunities out there for theaters to collaborate, on streaming content, for licensing houses or streaming platforms to collaborate on content, which is reducing everybody's expense as we ramp back up.
Right. That's all good information to have. Please check those organizations out, folks, if you have the time. Before we go, I just want to say on a personal note that it has been my great good fortune to work with Donna Lynn several times, and she is one of the most authentic, creative, intelligent, open-hearted, hardworking people I have ever worked with, ever in my career, any theater, whether it's Broadway or anywhere in the country. I'm such a huge fan of yours and always have been. And it's my honor to talk to you. And I just can't wait to see you again in person and give you a hug.
I feel the same way about you, Tally. Your audience should know that you have saved our bottoms more than once at Goodspeed.
Thank you.
And we are grateful to you and grateful to have you as part of the Goodspeed family. And
thank you. And I really consider you part of my family as well. Folks, please check out goodspeed.org. And if you can, donate to that wonderful organization, or donate wherever you are, anywhere in the country, to your local professional theater. They need it, and we need the arts. That's absolutely true. We need live theater to come back, and it will. I know that it will. It's going to take a lot of hard work, like Donna Lynn has been doing for the last 6+ months, trying to keep those doors open and ready to fling open when we're finally given permission to do so. But please get involved in the game. Donate, whether it's your money, your time, ticket refunds, anything. Please help us out. We'll really appreciate it. Donna Lynn, I can't thank you enough. I just adore you, and it means so much to me that you came on today.
Thank you, Tally. I appreciate the opportunity to share what's going on here.
It's my great pleasure. Stay safe and well. I will talk to you very soon. I'll see you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.